to navigate the void with grace. This is an exercise in trust, intuition, spiritual practice, being able to stay comfortable in the unseen, being able to regulate our nervous system so that we feel safe, even when it seems like nothing's happening. There's never nothing happening, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And this is so poignant for today, especially today's the fire horse. I just mention that I'm wearing my red sweater in case you haven't noticed. I'm wearing this in honor of the Chinese Lunar New Year and what this means for us. And it basically means we're ushering in a new energy. We don't know what it is yet. We know that there's a big shift coming. We know that the energy, you probably felt it over the last few days, the tail end of the snake and then the beginning of the fire horse. You sort of feel that energetic shift. There's something going on in the collective. We just can't put our finger on it. And for some of us, this can be really unsettling, and we don't know where we stand or where we're going, and we don't know what the in-between is. This can be very uncomfortable for so many of us. In fact, so many human beings don't even know what it means to be in the void. What does this mean? Because we're so busy filling our schedules and filling our time and trying to stay busy and keep moving and stay in productivity mode, which is, of course, as far as Western civilization is concerned, this is a badge of honor. How productive you are, how much you've accomplished in a day, how much you've worked. We really lean into this as part of our identity. And yet at no point in time do we honor or even give space to stillness and nothingness and the void, which is an actual thing. It's a real thing to be in that void state. It's the transition between moments, between what you're doing, between accomplishments, between jobs, perhaps between relationships, between moves, between shifts. The transition happens on a day-to-day basis, between the day and the night. And so it's important that we learn to honor the transition. And this transitionary phase is an invitation to be quiet, to be still, to cultivate presence, to cultivate inner stillness. Essentially, when I talk about quiet, I'm not talking about not talking. I'm talking about being quiet so that you can hear your own inner voice, you can hear your own intuition, and you can really develop that beautiful relationship with spirit. Spirit is not an entity outside of you. I say this all the time. Spirit is all of universal intelligence. You can name it nature, God, Mother Earth, whatever resonates most for you, whatever frame of reference is most accurate for you. We're talking about awareness outside of the 3D scope, outside of our 3D limited capacity to see, feel, hear, touch, sense, taste, smell, and so on. Okay, so we're talking about outside of these senses. So how to navigate the void with grace is simply to establish trust, deep trust that wherever you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. There's no accidents in nature. There's nothing ever happening randomly. There's no such thing as missing out. There's no such thing as I could have done this, or I should have done that, or I should be doing this instead of doing that, or I didn't do this, and so I'm now too late for that, or now I haven't done this, so I'm not going to have that. This is all a mental construct. Okay, these are our paradigms of operating that we have created as humans in order to function in a society and to stay accountable for what we refer to as time, right? The time to do things, or the time, the regular Gregorian calendar that determines our day to day, in Western civilization. And so, again, when we look at time from the perspective of nature, everything is always happening on time. Everything is always in perfect time. And wherever you are in your spiritual development journey, in your practice, is exactly where you're supposed to be. The feelings you're having, the sensations you're having, the pain that you're experiencing, the suffering that you're enabling, the pressure, the tension that you might be feeling, the confusion, the stuckness, all those lost feelings are happening for your highest and best good, so that you can lean into the discomfort and learn how to meet it with curiosity, with awareness, with self-governance, with empathy, wherever it's called for, or for self-compassion, perhaps, whatever it is that is causing this resistance in your life. Okay, so if you've set an intention for something, okay, and this is so important, of course, we're talking about fire horse, we're talking about like the shift of the new year. Today is the solar eclipse as well. This happened earlier this morning. And so it's a powerful energy today to be here with us live. And of course, if you have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat and I'll get to them at the end. Okay. This is so important. Like there's all these shifts and, there's all, it can create a lot of momentum, and momentum can create a lot of expectation. And what we want to do in these moments is not jump into some future version of ourselves or start imagining what our year will be like, especially if you're listening to astrological forecasts and predictions and things like that. We don't want to jump into a future version of ourselves. And this is very common in psychic readings, intuitive readings, mediumship connections that I facilitate, where people want to know that things are just going to get better. We want to know that there's something coming that I can anchor myself to, that I can identify with, that will give me that sense of reassurance and safety, because we don't feel safe in our bodies in the current, in the present moment, when we've got nothing to identify with. And when I say nothing to identify with, we've got really nothing to, say, okay, well, I'm doing this now, or I'm being this person now, or right now I'm in mom mode, or right now I'm in facilitator mode, or right now I've got this and this and this to do, right? And so imagine if you gave yourself even just an hour a day. I know for so many of us that can seem like a lot, but an hour a day of just nothing. Just simple nothing. This is literally reconditioning, rewiring your brain to be okay with the void, with just absolutely nothing. And of course, this is an exercise that we're doing because, there's never nothing. So many of us have families, or we have responsibilities, we have jobs, we have things we must do because we are participating in the world. And even that is up for reevaluation as far as I'm concerned. We can always look at, okay, what are all the things that I've said yes to, or that I'm participating in, or I've committed my time to, that I can sort of take back. In fact, the year of the horse is a beautiful opportunity to do that. It's a beautiful opportunity to really let go of some of this deeper sense of guilt and obligation that has perhaps seeped into our everyday activities that we don't really bring us joy. Okay, Fire Horse wants you to be independent and free and self-expressed. And of course, I want that for you every day of the year, regardless of what year it is. And that's what Spirit wants for you as well, which is why I'm communicating it. So again, we want to make sure that we're taking the time to really sit in this void. Practice creating void for yourself, and learning to be comfortable with the silence, learning to be comfortable with nothing, with no thing to do, no thing to think about or worry about or stress about, or even figure out with your brain. Nothing to imagine or to hope for, but just to learn how to be in the present moment. This exercise in and of itself can literally shift the way you approach all of life's situations. Because and again, when we talk about developing this awareness and learning to be okay with the void, what we're also talking about is equanimity, right? Which is a more sophisticated concept, but I'll explain in a moment why they're connected. Because if I can be in stillness, if I can be in the void with no sense of urgency, no sense of feeling like I'm being pulled in a million directions, if I can train myself to just be in nothing for this period of time, again, start with 5 minutes. If an hour feels like there's no way I can sit still for an hour. You don't have to sit down. You can lie down too. Start with 5 minutes, then increase it to 10 minutes, and then increase it to 15 minutes. Like, do this practice where you're really training yourself to just nothing. There's nothing to accomplish. There's nothing to do. There's nothing, nowhere I need to be. There's nothing that I have to think about or create and so on. Just give yourself this mental break from being busy, from engaging in the mental activity. And this will allow you to really lean into your own energy, to soften into your own energy. And this is where, believe it or not, this is where intuition becomes really loud and really clear, and creative energy can start to flow through you. Okay, so I've done this practice now. I mean, of course, this is, do what works for you. Or I do this practice weekly where I sit down and I make art. And I make art because I enjoy it, and because there's already an inclination in me to do this. And what it's done for me, it's really opened up my creativity, and it's allowed me to really be in that stillness for the time that I've allotted to make art once a week. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not being a mom, I'm not being an entrepreneur, I'm not being a facilitator, I'm not being a dog owner, I'm not being all the hats that I wear. I'm not in a session, I'm not facilitating inner work, I'm not answering questions. I'm just in that space for myself, and I'm just, creating. And this can be an example of void. There's no thing for me to do. It's just allowing energy to move through me. And this creative energy brings inspiration, it brings replenishment, it brings connection to source consciousness, it brings intuition, it establishes a deep trust within me that all is well in this moment. That I don't have to identify myself with my accomplishments, that I'm not, my self-worth isn't attached to what I did in a day, or what I was able to be successful at, or what I failed at, for example. And so many of us feel this way, right? We, at the end of our day, we think to ourselves, okay, what did I do? What did I get done? What did I did not do? What's happening? What's not happening? What are the updates? For those of you that are, posting on social media and so on, you might post something. This is a perfect example. You might post something and then, go back and keep looking at it to see how it's done, or what the reactions are, if there's been, if it's been well received, or if there's been a lot of approval and so on. And that gives us a sense of self-worth, right? This makes, social media kind of a dangerous thing. We can talk about that some other time. Because it really does train us to externalize our need for the evidence that we're on the right track, that approval, that sense of self-worth, that sense of purpose and forward movement, right? So imagine if you spent less time focusing on moving forward and more of your time on just cultivating presence. This is how you navigate the void with grace, right? You set your intention. Of course, we're trying to be intentional with our energy always, with our mindset, with our language, with our ideas, with our thinking, with our emotions, our energy and motion, our physical actions, the way we live, how we set up our lives, how we function, the flow of energy in our homes and so on. So we set ourselves up to thrive, to be in alignment with what we truly desire, how to embody this life that we truly desire. We must do these things, right? And then once we're in right action with all of these things, then we can simply surrender and be in this void, right? We can't expect immediate results. We have to allow for the proper gestation period, just like nature does, right? We allow for the seasons to change. We allow for the flowers to bloom, the seeds that we've planted, we allow for them to grow and, sprout through the earth, and to show us the evidence that there indeed is something to enjoy here. There's a harvest to enjoy. And so we have to give ourselves, we have to have that same relationship with ourselves. How often do we take time to really consider that perhaps something that we've set in motion for ourselves is not fully ready to take flight, or it's not fully ready to see the light of day, or to be shared with others, or to be successful, or to be something that is an income stream, or whatever it is you're trying to create in your life, right? And so it's very, very important that we give ourselves the time and the patience to really develop and lean into that relationship with spirit, especially when it feels like there's nothing going on. And I say this tongue in cheek because, I always say there's always something going on, because spirit is always bringing us guidance, information. Even at times, spirit says, rest and wait and trust that all is well, that I've heard your heart, I've received what you said. Of course, there's no I in spirit, but I'm personifying it for the purpose of this example. Spirit is just a consciousness. And so, but think about it from this perspective. If spirit was a person, then the person would say, just relax. I've got you. I heard it. I've got your order. We're in the universe. The universe says, I've got your order, and I'm going to meet you there. And I might serve you some opportunities to grow, to learn, to expand, to clean up, to restore integrity, to recalibrate your energy so that you can fully receive everything that you've asked for. And sometimes that takes time. The void is not nothing happening. It's just you are allowing yourself to not engage in anything, so that whatever needs to happen in order for you to have the thing that you deeply desire can reveal itself to you. And then you can lean into those soul nudges and say, oh, this is what there is for me to do. I've just had this creative input. I was sitting down, drawing, whatever, making art, or cleaning my closet, or whatever, just doing, not thinking about all the other things that I'm trying to do, and just being in my own energy. And this download came through, this idea came through, this soul nudge came through. Of course, this is always more pronounced and more amplified when we are still. And I can't stress that enough. I've talked about, channeling creative energy, but the stillness, the no thing is really what we're cultivating, the capacity to be in that space of not trying to be productive, not trying to engage in any one particular identity. Again, we're not engaging the ego. We want to disengage from any mental activity so that we can allow for our full awareness to come online and to become at peace with whatever the current moment is presenting ourselves with. Just because nothing's happening doesn't mean nothing is working. As a society, we've conditioned ourselves to believe that, like, oh, this isn't, having the impact I thought it was going to have. Just take a moment to even verify with yourself, like, how attached you are to circumstances, to outcomes, to success, to being well received, and so on, in your environment, in your workplace, in your family, and in your relationships. Imagine if you just did everything from your heart because it brought you joy, and that was enough for you. Okay, so again, this is how we navigate the void with grace. We show up for ourselves. We honor ourselves. We treat our bodies, our minds, our spirits, our everyday activities like they're sacred, everything in devotion to spirit, to our spiritual practice. If you live as a devotional being, then everything is in devotion to spirit. And then it feels like all of life can be an act of love, right? And I mean this sincerely, because when we're struggling, we're in fear, and when we're in fear, we can't feel love. Right? When we're stressing about something and worrying about something, we're in fear. When we're in fear, we can't feel love. Okay, so take the void, or whatever you are assuming is a void, which is not a void. It can just be a gestation period, or a stillness period, or a period of cultivating patience and developing presence and a deeper relationship with spirit, so that you can really trust the movement and the momentum and the pace of your own life. Of course, it can be easy to compare ourselves to other people. Don't do that. Okay, this is a recipe for stress and for feeling inadequate or not enough, or like you're not doing the thing that you deeply desire to do. Okay, so again, just focus on really allowing yourself to have this time, and to trust that all is well. And if there is something for you to do, if there is something more that you haven't touched upon, or if there's something missing or pending or out of integrity in your intentionality, that your relationship with source consciousness, with spirit, will reveal it to you in the right time and in the right way, so that you can lean in and take that action. Okay, this has been a saving grace for me, especially as a spiritual entrepreneur, is to really trust that I have my own timing, and that I need to do things when I feel inspired to do them, when I feel the creative energy is present for me, when I feel that I can do them from joy, when I feel like I can be fully present, when I know in my body when it's time. And I've learned to develop this relationship with trust, and this is the grace that I'm communicating with you today. Of course, it's not perfect. I'm human, and I get impatient too, and then but I'm always reminded in those moments to take a deep diaphragmatic breath, to regulate my nervous system, to meet myself with love and compassion, and to trust that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, having the experience I'm supposed to have. Ultimately, this is what we've been talking about today. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to your comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our broadcast, please don't forget to like and subscribe so you can tune in for Oracle Hour every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, where I channel spirit on your behalf. I offer live intuitive readings and spiritual guidance to offer you clarity, reassurance, and support on your healing journey. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you Sundays at 5 p.m. Pacific. All my love.